What's going on? The music's not playing?
No.
I hear no music.
And it says we're live.
We are live. How you doing, everybody?
Yeah. Technical problems. Woo! Pull that mic a little closer. But yeah.
Okay.
So we're live again. Vermland Radio. Doing our podcast on pure talk with Verm, Akai, and friends. And
LPV.
Yeah, I'll jump in there, Verm. I got it. So what's going on your neck of the woods there, Verm?
Just got my new equipment and I'm trying to set it down.
Yeah.
So one day I will get 3 cameras working. One day.
One day I'll actually be there in studio, hopefully.
Yeah, so you're gonna have your own camera and your own mic.
That's if they let me into Canada. Hopefully they will.
Yeah. So okay. Never mind the music, ladies and gents. No music tonight.
No music.
No music tonight.
We totally botched that.
Yeah. So for some reason, nothing's working. So
I was running with my head on fire anyways to get home in time to make it here. Kids still playing baseball. Yeah, oh yeah, it's baseball season.
Baseball season. Yeah.
Hopefully he gets a hit tonight, so we'll see.
Yeah. So how's everybody today?
Doing good. I went to my property in the mountains.
You did?
Excavators up there, clearing the land like I asked them to. The road's a little wider than I thought. I got a landing strip going on. It's pretty crazy.
Okay.
I was thinking I was getting like so the machine I'm dealing with is like a 30 to 40,000 pound excavator. It's a big guy.
Okay.
And they're about 8.5, 9 feet wide. I told the contractor, look, all I need is an excavator track in. You don't have to go any wider. My road currently into my property is now 2 excavators wide.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's huge. It's like a 2-lane road, bro. It's not even a 2-lane road to get there. It's a goat trail. And I'm like,
God.
Okay, all good. He's well, my boss wants me to go wider. No, you're wide enough. Don't go any wider. This is good.
Okay.
Now I got to come up with a 25-foot tree to make my fence. So my gate. So
that makes that now you can have a car going from one end to the other. So
yeah, I can have people leaving and going at the same time.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you didn't know you're doing a boulevard.
I didn't know I was doing a boulevard. Maybe I'll name it the Boulevard. I'll put a road sign up there that says the Boulevard.
The Boulevard. The Boulevard. Yeah. What about you, Sam? Truck. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, Sam. Yeah, go ahead, Akai.
Go ahead.
Truck.
Well, I'm just sitting in my truck waiting to deliver tomorrow. I'm up here by Montgomery, Alabama.
Nice town.
You're in Alabama.
Well, yep. I got stuck over the weekend because my APU alternator stopped on me, so they put me in a hotel for a weekend.
Definitely not a Toyota.
I get it fixed.
Alabama.
Toyota should make semis.
Who?
Toyota. Toyota should make a semi-truck. It would like decimate all these other semi-truck companies.
You should.
They do make small trucks, but they're not making the big ones. No.
No, it seems like something's always breaking on them. Always.
Well, it's the quality of them. They go for the cheapest price, and it's about quantity instead of quality. And they're making them out of plastic. It's like I remember the last truck I had. They actually put in on the APU, that's alternative power units. They actually put a plastic fuel pump in, and I'm like, "Are you crazy? Diesel is a corrosive."
That's probably why you use plastic.
Yeah,
a lot of plastics are very anti-corrosive to things like, and because diesel's a solvent technically.
Sorry. Yeah.
And so diesel being a solvent, a lot of plastics are very resistant to solvents. So I kind of see why they did it versus, some metals.
But the only thing is, the wear and tear of it. It lasted like a year and a half before they ended up having to replace it with a metal one because it just broke down too fast because it doesn't have the durability factor of a metal product.
Okay.
Interesting. So we've had a lot of things going on in the world.
Yeah, I was
Last
going to say
couple
that.
weeks.
A lot of things going on in the world, eh?
All over the world.
Well,
Here in the United
what do you-
States.
What are you
know,
thinking about Iran?
Me personally, I'm kind of weird on this.
Okay.
I'm very libertarian, right? You should be able to have your own country, and by God, if you have nukes, then I should be able to have nukes too.
Okay.
And I believe that I should be able to get to the same power level as you,
Okay.
as a country. Now, do I agree that they'd probably be the most responsible with them? I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know their culture well enough to say yes or no. A lot of people told them to stop and have been telling them to stop for years.
Yeah.
Israel just saying, okay, we've had enough. We're going to put a hole in all your stuff. And they, hats off to Mossad and all those IDF guys and their intelligence department. Cause my God, they like totally decimated the whole military leadership that was around that.
Yeah.
But part of me is also going, man, you can't, what about, India has nukes, Pakistan has nukes, a lot of these other little countries, there's a lot of little countries that have nukes.
Yeah.
And so now somebody that we don't like wants to get nukes, and we tell them no, and then we didn't blow them up, Israel did.
Okay.
And supposedly we have nothing to do with it, according to Trump. So I'm kind of curious to see where this flushes out. But on the other hand, Iran has been sending agents to the United States for the last 2 years trying to kill politicians, kill the president, and, kill other people that are in charge of our military stuff in retaliation for that one general we took out, I think.
Okay.
Well, the only problem I have with Iran having nukes, they give a lot of weapons to terrorists. I believe in the same way you're believing in, like, okay, you have nukes, I should have. But when you're giving a lot of money, weapons to terrorists and all that, it makes me a little hesitant. What is like, are you going to be responsible?
Saudi Arabia, so do all those countries down there. They all give money to terrorism.
But the only thing is, it's something where when it comes to nuclear weapons, it's like anybody that deals with terrorists, or they don't end up eventually getting a hold of a nuclear weapon. And Iran.
It's not that hard.
That's true.
It's not that hard to get a hold of a nuclear weapon. Just go talk to Russia. They'll probably give it to you.
Well, see, you see that they're supporting Iran?
Of course they are, because if we support Israel, then that will lead to a conflict between the U.S. and Russia.
Yeah.
I'm looking this up. It's kind of scary stat. So the United States officially has 6 nuclear weapons that are lost and nobody knows where they're at.
Yep. It wasn't one in North Carolina.
Yeah, there's a couple all the way back from like the 50s and 60s to. But
yeah.
But I think Russia has the most.
It's not important.
Well, it's something where I mean, it's like to me, I believe like okay, if these people are giving money and weapons to terrorists, are they going to start giving nukes to terrorists? That's why I'm kind of against these countries that are giving weapons and all that to terrorists. Are they going to start giving nukes to terrorists?
I know there's a lot of nuclear material that's gone missing from Russia.
Yeah.
A lot of like weapons grade nuclear material.
Okay.
Especially when the government broke down and perestroika and everything was in financial chaos and nobody was really in control of things. The military units were doing their own things. So they were raising their own money to keep their militaries alive. They were selling everything to anybody. And I'm sure come on. I know that you can go to the library and get a book on it.
Okay. How to work the atoms?
Yeah, you can go get a book on how to make a reactor. I mean,
look at the nuclear Boy Scout.
Yeah, we had a Boy Scout make a nuclear reactor in his garden shed.
Yeah.
Now, he did get in trouble. He didn't get in trouble for the reactor. He got in trouble for the mess it made.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an expensive mess.
But he made it out of, some nuclear products that he was able to purchase over the internet, some cobalt drill bits and tinfoil.
Wow.
Okay, so it's not. And there's guys here in this country that are working on, was it fusion?
Yep.
Fusion and fission. I get them both swapped up.
I think it's fusion.
Fusion. There's a couple guys here working on fusion reactors in their house.
That's beautiful. If it blows up.
Yeah, it takes out the neighborhood, right? But now maybe in a lot of other countries you don't have the right to do that or the right to even obtain that stuff. Yeah, I mean, look at all this stuff that has been made in people's garages that pose just as much of a threat as a nuclear. Maybe not kill as many people, but I mean, you sure is going to make a dirty bomb out of it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, all you got to do is strap explosives to nuclear material and you got a dirty bomb. You don't even need to make a nuclear weapon. You're just making a dirty, well, I guess a dirty bomb would be considered a nuclear weapon, but you don't need to make like you're blowing up a hydrogen bomb type thing. It's
okay.
But if you do detonate a nuke, like they've always said, detonating it on the ground is stupid. Yeah. You'll do more damage in low Earth orbit.
Yeah.
Because the EMP will knock out all your transformers, knock out all your satellites, and if all that stuff that's geosynced, it would take, like, if one was to go off over Denver in geosync orbit, it would knock this country on its butt.
Yeah.
It would take decade for the electrical grid to come back up.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Well, you look at Starfish Prime, they proved it.
What is it?
Starfish Prime.
What's Starfish Prime?
Where they were testing nukes in low orbit, and I guess they launched a nuke that was a little bit bigger than usual, and I think it was like 500 miles away from Hawaii, and it knocked out street lights, transformers, the communications, and they even had where they, this was back in the
62, July 9th of 1962, and we're more electronically dependent as a society.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, our cars are all electronic. I mean, I'm not talking, back in 1962, did they even have an onboard computer?
No.
Or was it more of like an analog module that ran ignition? I mean,
But, you got to figure, it's like that was back then, and it was blowing lights out and all that in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it would probably mess up a lot.
And that was
of
only
stuff
1.4 megatons.
Yeah.
It was not a very big bomb.
But it was a little bit bigger than they usually did. 'Cause I know the other test subject was less than that.
I've never even heard of this experiment before.
Yeah, they did a bunch of them.
No, I've never heard of this one. I didn't know they had done this, but unexpected. Starfish Prime detonated in 1962. Significant unexpected events on satellites. Van Allen belt radiation, electromagnetic fields that damaged and destroyed portions of satellites in low Earth orbit, created a new starfish belt of radiation that persists for at least a decade. Tested widespread auroras in the Pacific, temporary disruptions to radio and electrical systems in Hawaii.
Kind of messed up.
But back then, if the power went off, you weren't so dumb.
Yeah, true.
You might be able to survive, because Grandpa taught you some skills back in the day, and and your dad taught you some skills back in the day.
How to light a fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, you have some 20-year-old father can't even change his brake pads on his car.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're right.
They can't. They have to go to an auto parts place to get everything mechanically done on their car. They go to a cell phone place. They come home. They go to their games and all that stuff, and they work a job 9 to 5, working in an office. Maybe he's an outdoor guy. Maybe he goes camping, but he gets all his meals specially made, at the mountain house and all that blah blah blah, and it's got zero survival skills. Doesn't know how to filter water. Doesn't know that if the power goes out, the grocery store is going to be empty in 3 days or less.
Yeah.
Well, the power. Go ahead.
You were talking. Yeah, I wanted to have it. You were talking about that. We already had a chat on that, and lately I seen on YouTube now. There's people starting to talk about again about World War III and what will happen and how to handle it. So
I already think Ukraine was the starting point for World War III. I still believe that in my heart. Now we got this, and then we had, the whole Israeli Gaza thing kick off with the so-called Palestinians. And
how can you blame Ukraine?
No, I'm not blaming Ukraine. I'm just saying that was the conflict that kind of
the first war,
separated sides. It's still going on. It's still a sore spot with Russia that we're supplying Ukraine. Iran's helping Russia with all their drones that they're buying all the drones from Iran to send over to Ukraine. So, as soon as somebody gets
China,
and China's on their thing, and India, I don't know, they're just doing whatever's best for them. So they're floating on both sides of the border. And they got their own problems. Then we had this whole Israeli thing going on with the Palestinians, after the Palestinians did that god-awful terrorist attack. Now we got, and then after that, we had that war between India and Pakistan. Is it Pakistan?
Yeah.
But that got negotiated to peace. Now we got, Israel was told to come to the negotiating table. They didn't. So Israel bombed the snot out of them. Now everybody's expecting the U.S. to jump in. We dispatched a fleet to that area. I mean, and not to mention, we're not the only military making moves. The Polish military is beefed up. All the European Union militaries have beefed up because they know, hey, something might kick off with Russia. Now they're worried about stuff kicking off with Russia and Iran. I mean, it's tense out there.
So, like you're saying, so technically, no one was getting. One thing that I was wondering, and I want to ask you guys this. Trump doesn't want war, so he's trying to get Ukraine and Russia to stop.
Yes.
But now he's going to have he's maybe going to have no choice to get into Iran to
We've
help
already
Israel.
told Israel that we don't want to go. We're not going.
No, at the moment. But
At
he
the
did
moment.
say on the news, maybe yes, maybe no. But so he's doing like he's doing everything else. It's all.
He says that about everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's doing like
He
everything else.
he leaves it open so that way, if he has to, they don't go, well, you said no. Did you catch the interview where they were like, well, we'd like to know, if you're going to do something? He goes, why? So you can be there and watch?
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's like, I'm not going to tell you about a secret military operation. It's basically what he was telling them, but he was doing it in, like, you guys are really dumb if you think I'm going to tell you we're going to attack Iran.
I know that journalist didn't really think when she asked the question. So,
well, then you have that interview with Tucker Carlson that just went down with, I forget who it was, but Tucker Carlson didn't know that Iran's been trying to kill people in the United States for the last 2 years. They're finally charging these guys.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
The last couple of years, Iran's been sending operatives over here to the United States to kill people.
Okay.
So, it's not like they're innocent.
No, they're not.
If you're trying to kill our politicians, what are you trying to do? Push the big red button? The easy button here? Because if you kill one of our politicians, you just press the easy button, Jack. We're going to make it real easy for you. You're going to be building stuff out of stone, and you're going to be back in the Stone Age. Because it didn't work out so well for your Navy back in the 80s, buddy.
Only 8 hours.
8 hours. We decimated their Navy. And we were taking it easy.
Yeah.
It was one of those oops calculations. I guess we shot too much stuff. We blew up their oil rig. We sunk a bunch of their ships.
Actually, they weren't oil rigs. They were
defense
spy
platforms.
Yeah.
There's
a difference.
Same thing Russia's doing over in the Black Sea.
Exactly. It's the reason why they have
China.
boats.
China's building up them islands, and they're not even part of their nation. And they've actually had court orders saying, "Hey, you can't do that by the international
that's
court."
still not going to chop. That is still not going to stop the Chinese government from pressing ancestral, blah blah blah. We've been sailing these seas for the last 400 or 500 years, and we own it. And
technically, they don't own nothing because they're recent.
I got a question. I got a question about that. So, if I build an island, right? Because there's no land for me to actually get, right? Everything's been claimed in the whole world except for one place that I know of. But everything's been claimed, right? Somebody owns it. Some country owns that land. Even if they got nobody living on it, they claim it, right? So if I find a atoll out in the middle of nowhere that's 300 miles from any other country that's not claimed, and I go and put up a jack-up oil rig on that, and I start bringing rocks over, and I start dumping rocks around the base of my oil rig till I have land, you're telling me I don't own it? I built it. It's mine.
Now, is it part of in the economic zone or
no? If you're over 300 miles out, you're no longer in the economic zone.
No, you're in international.
That's international waters.
Water, but in that way, yes, I would say you own it because you developed it. But if it's part of a chain of islands that's part of a nation, or in their economic zone, or their whatever, then no, you don't.
Okay, so let's talk about Rose Island.
Never heard of
Anybody
that.
guys know about Rose Island? Great movie,
No.
by the way. Look it up, watch it. Excellent. It'll make you mad. Guy and his friend decide to build a outpost. Back then, international waters was 6 miles, 6.5 miles,
Okay.
6 miles, something like that, off the Italian coast. Right? Eventually, the Italian Navy goes up there and blows it up because they don't like the idea.
Okay.
And these guys built it in international waters. So, and then that's when they started coming out with 12 miles and, we need an economic zone. And
Okay. Really interesting.
But you got 300 miles of economic zone. I mean, you're making it. I mean, go look at the map. Take a map and draw 300 miles off coast of these people, this economic zone. And there's a lot of little islands and atolls and things that people could go out and explore and build whatever out there and go live happily ever after. But these governments and countries don't want us to do it.
Well, it was like pirate radio back in
Yeah.
during British
Sealand.
back. Yep. Never won.
Sealand. Sealand is still literally still a country. You can actually purchase citizenship in Sealand. I don't know how many people are going to take your passport, but you can actually buy citizenship in Sealand. And it's 2 concrete pillars out in the middle of the ocean that used to be 6.8 miles or 6.2 miles off the coast of England. But yeah,
What
get
do you
enough
do on
money.
that island?
I don't know, but it would be awesome to go visit. I would go visit Sealand. I would. I think it would be just awesome to be out there, because I guess you can rent a room and stay the night or stay a couple nights or whatever. And I mean, it's not much to do. It's not that big, but
No.
I just think it's cool to be able to stay in a historic place. Because it's considered a micronation, and but
Yeah.
how do you? So in order to get your own peace and try to start your own country, or just to have some, it's not like you can go find land, go homestead it, and call it yours anymore.
Yeah. So,
Right?
yeah.
Oh, we have a micronation in Nevada, I think it was.
Yeah, I think that's all a farce. I think that's just for
Yeah.
the money.
It is. Yeah,
What?
but
There's if you look up the list of micronations around the United States, around the countries, there's actually a micronation. It's like Nevada or someplace like that, where this guy's got immigration crossing. He's the commander in chief. He stamps your stuff. I think it's all like a touristy gimmick, where he could say he's his own country, but he still pay taxes in America. Because I mean, if you do take this, say for instance, you do buy property, and you say, "Hey, I am going to be my own country. I'm no longer part of the United States." Good luck. Because the state's still going to want their property taxes, and if you don't pay, they're going to come in force.
Yeah.
And the federal government's going to want their money. They're going to come in force.
Yeah.
For
sure.
It's usually, you're not going to get away with it.
Never.
And so, and I did some map on researches and reefs and all that stuff, and I found some spots that you could do it. But there's a couple places out there where I could put a pump jack rig in. The water's only 30 feet deep.
Okay.
In these places, I could put a pump jack rig on that and start filling the base with trash, organic trash, like Japan did. Some of these Asian companies did, where they've gone out and they've just put concrete barriers out in the ocean, like concrete boxes, and they fill it with composting trash. Maybe I'll become an offshore garbage dump for organic garbage.
Well, at least you're organic.
Yeah, just dump organic garbage and make my own soil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take 15, 20 years, but
it's like some of these places that run out of room and they built airports by using
Singapore.
sand.
I think
Saudi Arabia.
Singapore? Yeah, they use sand. It's just Saudi Arabia uses a lot of sand, but those islands are all sinking.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Are you talking about the islands that they built for the hotels?
Yeah.
Hotels and houses. Yeah. And there's a couple places that they did that. I think, Tokyo did that too, if I remember right, with one of their airports. And they built
one of the airports they did is they actually went and took all the organic garbage out, and they filled these concrete boxes with organic garbage to get and composted it basically into dirt to get enough dirt to build a runway.
And they actually did it.
To me, it's ingenious. I mean, it's a good way to put your waste instead of just dumping it in the ground and letting it rot. Let's make land with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
They actually, I remember watching a documentary about that. They actually put where they can actually raise it up. It's on stilts, and when it sinks so low, they can jack it up to keep it above sea level.
I mean, we live in some pretty awesome countries, Verm, where we can go to places and go, man, you could drive for hours.
Yeah.
And nobody lives there.
No.
There's still so much open land available. Because what's the total population of Canada right now? Is it 30 million?
40 million?
40 million? 40 million? I'm down.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah, and it's bigger than the US.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nothing per square mile.
No. And it's one of the reasons why they want the resource. A resource.
Mm-hmm. I heard there's going to be a couple votes next year. We'll see what happens, I guess. I saw one of the groups trying to use the Articles of Confederation for the United States because there was a clause in there, the 11th clause or something about being able to, when we did our Articles of Confederation back in 17 something, we talked about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just skip it. But, yeah. But I know this is pertinent to Canada anyways. So the Florida Panthers did a dummy move and damaged the Stanley Cup.
They did?
Yes, they did.
What did they do?
Because they dented the base and cracked it. It's not the first time it's happened. It probably won't be the last. But, it's getting handled out on the ice. It's getting handled on parades. It's, things get dropped. It's 100 and something years old. And, yeah, they dropped it and damaged it again. So we will see. Because what?
Can't believe it.
Isn't the cup? Did they just win the cup?
I don't know. Did they win the cup? Who are you talking about?
The Florida
Oilers?
Panthers.
Is it the Florida Panthers that won the Stanley
Team
Cup?
celebrates Wednesday, June 18th, 2025.
Yeah.
Florida. Yeah, I guess they did win the cup.
They did.
Wow.
Yeah. DJ Cedric is saying yes. He's right beside me.
Yeah, that's not a good day for Canada.
No.
You boys got to step it up. Take that cup back.
Yeah. They'll get back.
This thing only weighs 37 pounds.
Yeah.
That's fairly light for as big as that thing is.
Yeah. Why would they want it heavy? Everybody's handling it while they're on the ice.
Yeah, but I mean, still 30. I mean, that thing's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's half the size of a guy, at least. That thing's got to be 4 foot tall.
I think. Yeah. It's that crazy.
That's nuts.
Got a question. How did you like G7?
I haven't heard anything about the G7. Have you heard
No,
stuff about the G7?
Well, I mean, yeah, no. Well, one for one, Donald Trump left early because of the Iran issue, so he had to go back to base. So he couldn't stay.
Go ahead, Verm.
No, you go. I stopped because you heard.
Well, I heard Canada had problems with India, and they could have talked to India about it, and they didn't want to say nothing to him at the G7. I'm like, okay, you got all the leaders you need to talk to right there, and they're saying, oh, we got to do better, open up communication again with him. I'm like, he was just there. Why didn't you talk to him there?
They must have talked.
You know they
must have talked. The only person that didn't talk.
Everybody talks at the G7.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that we overheard is Cartney and Trump said that they handled a 30-day something to negotiate thing or something like that.
Yeah, there was some tariff negotiation things that happened there.
Yeah, so he goes, and Trump said, yeah, no problem. And they're supposed to be talking, but I mean, he had to leave early. So.
Well, yeah, and if they're, the first thing that came out after Israel attacked Iran is, the U.S. is involved.
Yeah, that's the reason why he must have left.
And the U.S. is like, no, we didn't do anything. It's not us. That's all Israel. And we actually had to pull a lot of our navies out of a lot of different ports around the world and send them back out in the ocean because it's too risky to keep them up somewhere where they can get to them.
Well, yeah, they don't want to have another Pearl Harbor, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Or number, what was that? With that one ship where that were getting supplies and they had all that C4 and blew a nice little hole in the side of the boat.
Oh, that was over in the Bosphorus Straits or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that was Iran, wasn't it?
I think so.
I'm not sure. But yeah, somebody drove a speedboat full of explosives into a ship. Yeah.
Yeah. How in the hell they didn't see the boat?
Well, they did see the boat, and they thought they were buying supplies because in these other countries, the boat would come up to the ship and sell like oranges, produce, and other stuff to the ship, and they'd buy it from them. They thought it was one of them, and they drove right up and blew it up. That's how they did it.
That's all that. ROE, which was considered rules of engagement, right, has got extremely strict for U.S. military.
Okay.
It's you can't fire unless fired upon. You can't, even if you threaten somebody with a firearm, it gets stupid sometimes. I can't believe you did that. You pointed a gun at that civilian. No, yeah. So what? He was doing something dumb. He stopped and went away. No. You can't. They were even telling us when I was in, and this is back in the 90s, you can't use this weapon system, but you can use this weapon system. You can't call for indirect fire without authorization you got to have authorization from division in order to use a mortar, but I can use an automatic belt-fed grenade launcher. That's fine. Yeah.
Crazy, eh?
Yeah, it's just.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, there's that rules of engagement too. They need to update it because the world has changed. Because now
the rules of engagement change at every conflict, and they usually get worse and worse and worse because there's some pencil pushing lawyer that's going, if you don't do X, then we're going to put that soldier in jail. When it should be the other way around. I understand why they do some of this stuff, but to stop people from going absolutely bananas and nuts and killing everybody they see.
Okay.
But Vietnam.
Not even Vietnam, dude. There's been
That's
rules of
where it was.
There's been rules of engagement, back since World War One.
Yeah, but I'm talking like what you mentioned, like where you're going to kill everybody. There was a lot of that back in the Vietnam War.
You know how to tell the difference between a VC and a well-disciplined VC?
No.
They stand still.
Okay.
VC run, disciplined VC stand still.
Okay.
How can you shoot women and children? You just don't lead them as much. When the whole indigenous population hates your guts and they're willing to kill you, they're willing to send their children in with bombs strapped to them and grenades strapped to them. Hey, GI, give me candy. Boom. Or they'll send their little, Mahmed in there with a bomb strapped to him, to go run and talk to the soldiers and then blow them up. And there's a bunch of legless dudes laying there. How do you expect soldiers to maintain? It's very hard for professional soldiers to maintain a level of respect for indigenous people when the indigenous people are trying to kill them at every turn.
Okay.
True. That's why I think the rule of engagement should, reflect.
Yeah, but the rules of engagement change all the time, and usually 99% of the time are not good for the professional soldier.
No, they're not.
It hinders the professional soldier from doing their job. But back in the day, now we're trying to win hearts and minds and do this stuff. But back in the day when we fought World War II and World War I, you make those bastards pay so dearly with their lives that they never want to ever do it again. Or we go, now would you like a candy bar? Let's have peace.
Yeah. Boom.
Instead of, bombing their entire city into a bunch of sticks.
Japan.
Europe.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Dresden.
Japan. Japan really.
You want to talk about the war crimes of Dresden?
Never
All
heard
the war
that.
crimes that the United States government committed in Dresden?
Never heard of that.
Where we were firebombing the crap out of that city, creating firestorms that would just wipe you through and just massacring the civilian population.
Didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go read up on it. There's some good books about the firebombing of Dresden. You'll be like, holy biscuits. But you know what? To the victors of war go the spoils, right? Also goes the history. To the victors of war goes history.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been reading this book, and I always totally screw his name up. But this guy was a Japanese soldier, and I only read it while I'm at work. So I only get a couple pages in every once in a while. It's a Japanese soldier that was fighting over in the Philippines that didn't know the war had ended for 30 years.
I heard about that.
Seriously.
Yeah.
He was like one of the he was like the last Japanese soldier to surrender. He had literally been fighting for 30 years. And the president of the Philippines gave him a pardon. They sent him back to Japan. He was a big hero. And he left Japan to go become a cattle farmer in Brazil.
Shit.
After he left doing his thing in Brazil, he came back to Japan to help train the youth, because the youth was becoming a bunch of pansies. Basically. They're getting
the only thing is, back then, when the commanding officer say, "Hey, you don't do nothing unless you hear it from me."
Yeah,
and that's what the guy did. And he ended up. They dropped leaflets. They tried to convince him that the war was over, everything, and until luckily
he originally had a 4-man squad.
Yep.
And over the years, it was like the year before his last year, they had actually killed his person that had been with him for like 29 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had arms and weapons stashed all over that island up in those mountains. And they would go out there and they would burn the rice fields right before harvest. They would, rob stuff from all the locals. They would, shoot the cops and the police and the military if they could get a clean shot on them. One shot and they would disappear into the woods, because if you shoot more than once, they can zero your location.
Yeah.
So they would just shoot that one time and they were out. And so a bunch of harassment, interdiction stuff. And so, after a while, they were like, oh, it's not a Japanese soldier. It's probably some rebel that's on this island that's, pissed off at the government. No, it was that Japanese soldier. And just amazing.
Wow.
And they luckily found his commanding officer that was still alive.
Yeah.
And he ended up going out there, and I think with a microphone or something, telling him, "Hey, war's over, calm down," and all that. And
Yep.
he gave up peacefully.
Oh.
But he would have kept on going until he died.
He even gave his sword to the president of the Philippines, and the president of the Philippines gave it back to him.
Are you serious? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and there is a movie about it. I wish they would have done parts of his after he got back to Japan, or when he got to Japan, because could you imagine you left Japan in 1940 whatever, got sent over to the Philippines, right? And then you come back 30 years later, the entire time you've been living in the jungle, sleeping on the ground. You've been eating rough. You've been,
Yeah. Living in caverns.
Yeah. And then you come back to Japan. You're all of a sudden a national hero. I think he even turned down his pay. Because they tried to pay something about his pay he turned down. Like, he accepted his retirement, but his service pay, like for 30 years, so they back paid him with promotional ranks for 30 years. And he turned down part of it for some reason. But
well, the only thing is, that's my understanding. That's why he went to Brazil, because Japan was a little too noisy for him.
Well, it was so modern, and computers and everything was like, everybody has a telephone, everybody's driving cars,
Yeah, 30 years, man. There were a lot of horses in his time.
Well, I mean, you imagine the technology switch. Just imagine you were to freeze your life now. This is it, right? And then 30 years from now, get dumped off into society again. How much stuff has changed in 30 years?
For sure.
It'd be like that show Futurama.
Yep.
Be frozen for 1,000 years, and you come out like, wow, we got flying cars now.
What did I hear? I'm trying to remember something. We talked about him, but man, I have a brain fart. Well, while I'm having my brain fart, I just want to let everybody know, Vermland Radio, LPV podcast here, live. Our podcast every week on Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Come and listen to us. Wednesday. Yeah, I say
Wednesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, Wednesday.
The Jim Canna show is on Tuesdays, though.
Yeah, the Jim Canna show. That's why I'm getting mixed up. Too much podcast.
Yeah.
Come and listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts, if I remember.
Yep.
We are also on audio. So I know a lot of people come and listen to us live on audio. So because some people don't have time to watch a video, so they listen to audio. So I'm okay with that, because that's what we do. We transfer our stuff. So every week, Akai and I and Sam Truck joins up when he can, when he doesn't have technical difficulties.
Yeah, I have a lot of them.
Yeah. And if you
and
want to come and join, leave us an email at the LPV podcast
we
at
don't know where Doc is
outlook.com.
today.
Yeah. And
No
you
messages,
can come
no
and join
nothing.
us. But I know a lot of people are trying to write to us and say, hey, invite me into Discord and stuff like that. I need to know who you are first, because I don't want to get a hacker into our system.
No, not necessarily a hacker.
No, but whatever.
It's
Yeah. I call them all hackers. If you come in just to rumble, no. But I mean, if you want to come in, have good discussions with us, like we're doing every week, I'm more willing. I wanted to say it last week, but we didn't have time. So just to let everybody know.
But we had a bunch of people coming into the chat.
Just
bombarding the chat. And I was like,
Yeah.
you can't bombard the chat. That's not nice. It's
No, and that's the reason why Kicks is not open tonight.
so,
For
is
one,
that
I'm
why
having
it's so quiet over there? I've been
Yeah.
looking at this side where the chat's supposed to be, and I'm like, there is
Yeah.
nothing there tonight. What's going on?
Yeah, I had to shut it down. I was having technical difficulties logging in. So I said, well, the heck with it. We're not going to have no one writing to us and say, hey, we can help you out in getting 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
That's a scam.
Which kind of, it's not really, because there's a lot of people that use those services to get monetized.
Yeah.
The other thing is they're using fake accounts.
Exactly.
And it's something where, if the company finds
And
out,
eventually,
next thing you know, they're like,
no, I don't. What's the company going to do? Remove 1,000 followers off you all of a sudden?
they've
No,
done it in
They're not going
YouTube.
to do that. They're not going to do that. You know why they're not going to do that? Because that would be an admittance that they failed. That their security is not as good as they think it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Not
may
wrong.
ban some of those accounts, but
Now you can ban if it's really not, if you're not following the EULA, if you're not following the rules. So,
they're not gonna flat out. I've seen some people get banned from X temporarily here recently.
yeah.
I haven't
Well, I mean,
followed any of that stuff.
The problem is all media platforms shouldn't be there to be bitched on. Because sometimes you got all these trolls and you got these people just saying nonsense.
Well, I like what's happening to a lot of these troll baiters that are going around to these different countries and just wreaking havoc. I like how a lot of them are starting to go to jail now.
Well,
because there's that guy in North Korea, there's that guy that was in Japan, pulling these pranks that are just absolutely god awful.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about now.
There's a show that I listen to, and the guy has a team of hackers. But the hackers are not hackers, they're not negative hackers. They're hackers hacking the hackers. They're hackers hacking the hackers and getting them all that scam shamuk there, the money and all that.
Is it the blue hair guy?
I was following one, and the guy followed. He was able to get. He got the scammer. He was at an address. He brought his fake box. He was like being a delivery man, but he was the scammer guy, and he was going to get him on camera. They never answered, and then suddenly they got another box that came in. So it was like a Dropbox mail thing. So the guy looks at the number, looks at the address, and calls up the lady. So the lady wouldn't want to talk because she was scared, because she thought he was a hacker too. But he's not a hacker. He has his web page, and it's a team that dismantles all this crap. That's what they do. They have fun with it. And like the guy that I'm telling you, it's a young guy with his team. And one day he was talking to the hacker, and he changes his voice, and he does these crazy things. And then the hacker started getting pissed off at him. So he says, "Hey, by the way, I can see your face. I know where you are.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now.
This place. Yeah, live at this place. And then the guy starts getting pissed off like hell. And then he leaves. So I go,
Well,
if we can stop hackers.
be honest with you, I think
I-
they should be cracking down on hackers by just, shooting them like terrorists. Take them out.
Well, I mean,
Because
the guy,
they're destroying lives. They're destroying
yeah, the guy,
people.
yeah, the guy that I told you that he left a package and then there was another package. It was a box because they all had the same scam crap. Put it in a shoebox, tape it with doc tape. Great, So he saw it. So he looked at he calls up the lady. So with all the transaction of phone, she forgot to hang up and she started talking with the hacker. So she was telling him, well, I got someone on the phone that's asking me all these questions, and because she was being lied to and she was being harassed. So, and then suddenly he was able to prove it to her. So he goes, look, I cannot touch your box without your permission. Because it's something like a federal law or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could
have to
get
get
jail
Can't
for
open
that.
somebody else's mail. Yeah.
Yeah, you could get jail for it. So he told the lady, I'll call the cops. I'm in the front of the door. I won't let no one touch it. So he was able to tell her what's in the box. So she put $35,000 cash in that box. So he goes, I'm going to get it back for you. So he called the cops. And then the cops weren't collaborating. They thought he was the hacker.
Yeah, he's the scammer.
But they finally get there. He goes, I am not going to F-bomb my truck out of here on your request. You're going to come to me. So they finally get there, 3 cars. And then the cops all surround and started talking to him. And he goes, look, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the good guy. So he had to explain everything, show his website. And then suddenly he goes, look, I'll call the lady and I'll ask her to give you permission to touch the box. That's what he done. So at the end of the day, then, they were able to take the box. Cop brought the money to the office, and it saved that $35,000 to the lady.
Yeah, which is great.
So,
But they know who these big players are that are doing all these scams, and it's huge. What I find interesting is we know that these big scammers, they run these huge corporations over in India. They have properties here in America, down in Dallas and all over the place. Huge mansions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet we don't do anything to them. The Indian government arrests a couple here and there, but they never go after the big guys. They always get the little ones.
Well, it's like that
I think
movie.
they're getting paid off by the big guys.
Or
It's
the
almost like
old
that.
people.
It's like that.
What I would love to see, and they should just put it on like the internet for people to view, is to have a hit team go into one of these scam call centers and just execute everybody in the call scam center and leave.
Now, you want to kill everybody, man.
No, I just think if that happened once or twice, that whole thing would cease to operate. People would be like, screw that. I am not working for that.
Shock and awe.
Yeah.
No, because, it worked in war. That worked when, when a country used to attack you, if you hit them back so hard and so viciously, they were like, no, we're not attacking those guys again. No. That was stupid.
No.
But now we go back and go, stop. We'll help rebuild your country. Stop. Oh, you're going to do it again? Oh, stop. What do you want? You want economic aid? Okay, we'll give you economic aid.
It doesn't work. You look back at World War II, we bombed the living daylights out of Europe, Japan, and all that. And it's like...
And we rebuilt
the
Japanese industrial base, which helped them skyrocket past the U.S.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And have they actually said we're not doing no war until recently, since China's being more aggressive. Now they're like, well, I think we need to get an actual military now. they had a defense force, but they're actually
No.
going into
Do you
being
know-
military
You know
now.
who the Japanese military is? Japan has a defense force. They don't have a military.
Yeah.
They have a Japanese defense force. But you know who pays for that?
Who?
The United States government.
Never heard about it, but I understand. Well, for sure. Yeah.
Here comes
after
the lecture.
Pearl Harbor. No, but after
There's
Pearl
so
Harbor,
much stuff we pay for in all these countries around the world. And I just want to go unplug, do a reset, and go, okay, what are we actually paying for? What do we actually need to pay for? And I'm sure a lot of, like, Canada probably could do the same thing and go, what are we actually paying for? Because Canada pays a lot of aid out to all kinds of countries around the world.
yeah.
Do we really need to pay, this tribe in, Hitsuwatsi Bootsby, to help them develop?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, no, I can't say the rest. But you know what I mean? It's, why am I paying, for this school system over in, why the hell were we giving, like, what was it, $100 million a year? Was it $100 million to the PLO? It was an enormous, it was an outrageous sum of money every year we were giving to the PLO so they could run their schools and do their hospitals, which none of that crap ever went to that. It went to building tunnels all over underneath Gaza so they could attack Israel. They'd buy munitions and they would put up a little building and go, yeah, it was really expensive. It was really expensive because of all the tunnel network that was underneath.
Yep.
And you put your command and control center under the school.
Yeah.
Or
make
under
sure
the
that
hospital.
They know they're not going to be bombarded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Half the medical staff's on, works for the, Hamas.
Yeah.
And all the aid we gave them would go into the building up their forces and everything else. Yeah.
And then when Hamas ran across the border, they just ran to their little fighting positions across the border, which were just another fallback positions, just full of more guns and bullets.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
I mean, I kind of almost think we bring it upon ourselves sometimes.
Yeah,
sure.
we do. Because we don't go in there and devastate them. Saying, okay, there's a better way. We'll help you rebuild. Look at Japan. Japan even.
I don't think Israel should give it back.
No, they shouldn't.
I think Israel should deport everybody there.
No country wants them.
No, because they don't want the problem.
Yeah, they don't want. Because they're like, well, we'll send you to Iran. Iran don't even want them. That's pretty bad, huh?
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, I'm sorry, but they done so much messed up things. They should not. It's bad.
We should. I wonder if I should be able. I need to find that. I need to find that thing about. It's about a Hamas children's cartoon. Oh my God! I need to say I don't think we could play it on the show. It's that bad. No.
Okay.
Really,
no,
a cartoon?
It's one of those. It's a children's cartoon. Yeah, they're children's cartoons.
Ain't that the cartoon that they show them how to fight and stuff like that?
It's racist. It's all the things that we've been trying to fix in our own country for decades. That they are just blatantly, we don't give a damn.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But if you train that into a 2-year-old and you keep reinforcing it his whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way they're going to think, even when they're young adult and they're an adult. And You know,
Well, it amazed me, and I hate to sound racist about this,
you are racist.
but I am.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's always for thousands of years. It's the Muslims that start something.
But that's
You know,
that's
any
not
other
racist. Just because you don't like them because they're Muslim is not race. Muslim is here's where I'm going to get in trouble, a cult / religion that they believe in. That is not a race. Being Muslim is not a race.
Okay, sorry, I was wrong. But what I'm saying is, all of the problems we've had, have been related to that.
But we did understand what you were
terrorist
saying.
attacks. You have 9/11.
That
You
can be
have
debated.
all this other stuff. In what way?
Well, look at the 70s. Look at all the terror attacks we had in the 70s. We had people blowing up police stations. We had the Weather Underground. We had that other Latin American group that was in here blowing stuff up in the United States too.
But I mean, I'm talking, all the other ones, they were small and they weren't like, where other nations would jump in and say, oh yeah, here's a couple $1 million. Or, oh, here's some plastic explosives. Or here, have some weapons.
I think the money. I think the money and aid thing is like, look, we'll give them enough money and aid so they can feed their kids and they can get fat and happy, and then they won't want to attack America. Well, no, you made them fat and happy, and now they have enough money to buy more guns and more ammo, and they still want to attack America.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry, but
as long as you keep paying your tax, sir, just like the good Quran says, then we can tolerate you.
Yeah. With that,
that's not hypocritical. I feel,
Yeah, we can talk about it next week.
Yeah, next week. It is that time. So, Akai, you want to do your thing?
Please like and subscribe. Go out to vermlandradio.com. Go to our swag shop. Buy this stuff in the Vermland Radio store. It's good stuff. I have my cup laying around here. It's been my coffee cup holder and it was a coffee cup for a while. Then it became a pen holder. But yeah. But we make nothing off this. We just do it so we can actually be able to afford to put more money back into radio. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
So thank you, everybody. See you all next week.